tale of Maxwell Roth. He sought the footlights like a moth, his sense of timing never off until he opted to collaborate with a hooded reprobate. The blighter and assassin made a deadly double bill. Jokes, 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 make 'em laugh until they choke. Fairly slay 'em in the aisles, maidens fair and princes charming. Thrills, 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 dashing feats and bloody spills, and I guarantee you'll never see the ending coming.
That's most definitely what's up.
The curtain rose, the scene was set, they danced a murderous duet, and much deserving blood was let up to the scene wherein they disagreed on who should live and who should bleed, and Maxwell Rothy then received a very bad review. Jokes, 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 and there's daggers and there's cloaks, but behind the scenes the leading players differ on the plot. Laugh, laugh, laugh at the dandy's new red scarf. Now 8 shows a week to Beelzebub is his eternal lot. Jokes, 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 make 'em laugh until they choke. Fairly slay 'em in the aisles, maidens fair and princess charming. Thrills, 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 dashing feats and bloody spills, and I guarantee you'll never see the ending coming.
Did you see it coming? Did you see the ending coming? How's everybody doing? How's everybody doing? Living life, living free. How was your weekend? Tell me. Tell me your sweet, sweet secrets. How is everybody? Hello, Luke. Hello. It's good to see all of you. I'm glad to have you here. Get chat up on screen. Paste. Boop. There we go. Played a lot of Baldur's Gate 3, as you should. House update, I am still waiting. For those of you not familiar, basically last week we discovered like a huge problem with this house we're under contract on. So over the weekend, the seller had a bunch of second opinion and a third opinion done. And I don't know where he's at. So at some point during this stream, I might get a phone call, in which case I'll be like, oh crap, I'll BRB. And we'll go on a BRB screen and do that. Like this. Ooh. And it'll be okay. But we'll do that just because I will need to pick that up and find out if we're still under contract, because the seller kind of has to fix it. But theoretically, he could just unlist the house and then rent it to people with major sewer issues and just basically not tell them and just roll with it and then fix it in a few years when he decides he actually wants to sell it. But we're just gonna have to see. I mean, we're just gonna have to see. That would be kind of slimy, but I mean, if you called me and just casually told me, hey, you got to fix a $30,000 sewer line issue, I'd be pretty bummed. I think we all would be. So I totally understand that he's probably not thrilled right now, but I'm just glad we discovered this before we bought the house. Imagine buying a house, you move in, you're so happy, then you notice like the drains keep seeping stuff up through them. Stuff doesn't, like, toilets don't flush right. The like shower's not draining right, like just a bunch of weird stuff. Then you have a plumber come out and he says, oh yeah, you got a belly in your main sewer line pipe to the main. It's gonna be like 30 grand to fix it because we have to tear up your entire driveway and dig into the street and do permits and stuff. You'd be like, I'm sorry, what? That would be a big bummer. So I'm glad we discovered it now. Yeah, 30K. Yeah, it's some. He said the initial work would be 24.5 ish, and then concrete work could be anywhere from like 2,000 to 5,000 after that. So a big deal. Michael, congrats on the new job. First corporate job. Oh baby. Hopefully you got good benefits. Usually good corporate jobs do. Yeah, a bunch of horror stories on YouTube about it. I can only imagine. Yeah. Nikki dropped her phone upstairs. Samaya, thank you for the super chat as well. Yo, Luke, I think Starfield should have stuck to 20 handcrafted planets rather than the whole 1,000 planet thing. That would have worked better with quests. I think so. Even just like in the basic, most bare bones sense, there's so many load screens that it in 2023 is pretty jarring. And to travel from like one planet, you leave like the base after you get the quest, and then you fast travel over to your ship, and then you fast travel from your ship to a couple star systems. Each time there's a loading screen. You travel over to the star that you need to go to, then down to the planet, and then down from outside the planet's orbit down to the surface. And then there's like a 2 to 3 minute walk to the point of interest. It's like, there's just so many. Like there's so many. So if they had had some systems, or like one system or two systems, that would have been, I think, better suited. But like we've said with Starfield, if you're able to tune out the load screens and the weird Bethesda funk, you can have a really good time. But there is no denying that it plays like a game from 10 years ago. Yeah, if you're running off of like an NVMe SSD, my load screens were between 2 and 5 seconds most of the time. But when there's 6 of them between everything, like, it's just kind of frustrating. So like, there's just, every time I want to do anything, I'm sitting through just like, okay, fade to black, load screen. And then fade back in. Okay, then pull up the map, fast travel again, fade to black, load screen. Back in. Okay, now I've just like this thing, fast travel, fade to black, load screen. You know, it's just constant. It's constant. My little brother, he came up to me yesterday. I saw him and he was like, I tried playing Starfield, dude. That thing freaking sucks. He was not having it. He's like, he's not a hardcore gamer. He plays a lot of like Anno 1800 and games like that. But he was like, I tried to play Starfield on my Series S and I cannot stand that game. It was so funny. He's just like, I hate it.
The Fantasy Files podcast super chatted $5. Have you figured out how to remove the weird filter over everything in Starfield? Always looks hazy.
Yeah.
Also, I hope your house sale works out.
Oh, me too. It's a beautiful house. I mean, it really is. It really is beautiful. Like, I hope it works out. I hope I get the call and they're like, yep, we're going to fix it. It's going to be fixed by close. We're going to get the deal done. That's all I want. What's the address? Nice try. That wasn't even a nice try. That was just a try. But yeah, it's a nice place. I hope it works out. But we'll see. It has like, in the basement, half of it is finished. And like I said, the new studio would be down there and it's like 2 to 3 times the size of this studio space. So it'll be very nice for us. There's also like a bathroom, because it's technically a bedroom. There's a bathroom just outside of camera. And then there's another like big closet, walk-in closet for storage. So I can keep like all the extra camera equipment that I currently have literally in the rafters of the garage. I can keep in an actual like proper space. Yeah, it has more powerful AC and it has, because it's a bigger room, it shouldn't heat up anywhere near as quickly when we start streaming. So that'll be nice. But beyond that, I mean, there's also like another 400-ish square feet of the basement that's not finished. And what we're going to do is we're going to finish that and turn it into like a tabletop gaming room. So we can play like Warhammer 40K, D&D, whatever we want in there. And it's its own dedicated room just for that. And I think we might even start trying to stream some of that. We might stream that on like Twitch or something. I don't know. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. The ultimate gamer den. But what I want to do for that room is, oh yeah, Nikki's totally down. She loves D&D and yeah. What I want to do is for that room that we're going to finish, I want to do one of those bookshelf doors. So you go up to it and it just looks like a bookshelf. And then there's like the heater room or whatever, furnace room door right there. But it looks like a bookshelf. And it's filled with actual books, but one of the books is a little lever that unlocks it. And I think I'd use like the Necronomicon or something. And you pull that, and then the door unlatches and swings open, and that's how you get into the tabletop gaming room. I think that'd be badass. So we'll see if that actually happens. I'm hopeful. I think we could pull it off. I think we could do it. I think we could do it. But thank you for the 5, my friend. As for the weird filter thing over Starfield, I know what you're talking about. They also have really weird gamma settings, and like they want to do this kind of low contrast thing with it. It achieves an interesting look, but I think it washes out a lot of stuff in general. But there are console commands. My understanding is there's console commands to turn that off. It's like remove the haze or whatever. Love the hidden. Yeah, dude, I do too. Rayombo, good to see you again, my friend. It's been a minute. What's up? It's been a while. Yes, it has. Also 16 times the sewage. Dude, it would have been. It would have been. I just, the plumber said to me, and I mentioned this the other day, the plumber said, because I threw out, I can only imagine how terrible it would have been if we had bought this house and not known about these issues. And he was like, oh, I just inspected a house a couple weeks ago that basically somebody had bought it without inspecting it during the height of like the COVID real estate craze. And they never had the sewer line inspected or anything. And so then after owning it for a year and a half, they decided they wanted to sell it. So they put it up on the market. They went under contract. Somebody wanted to buy it. And those buyers had the sewer line inspected and scoped. So they did and found that there was 113 or something foot belly in the pipe, which just means that it arcs. And you know, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that a pipe that's supposed to drain stuff, if it arcs, that's no good. That's bad because then things don't drain. You end up with stuff flowing back up into the house. So you take a big poopy and it ends up coming back up through the drains. Not good. So they had this inspected, realized this, and the guy had to quote them $57,000 to fix it. All because they didn't do a little $150 sewer scope when they bought the house. Like, that hurts. That hurts. He said he felt so bad. He's trying to tell the husband about it. And the mother is in the corner of the house crying and sobbing. And then the kids are crying because mom's crying. He's like, I felt horrible. But that's why you do home inspections. That's why you scope the sewers. Like, because this stuff will sneak up and it will not just ruin your day. This will ruin your years. Like, for some people, that would put them like underwater on the whole house. Like, they just all of a sudden they can't sell it because they'll lose money. And to pay that 57 grand, there's no loans to do that. Like, you have to pay cash for that. Even if you're a homeowner, you probably got a mortgage for the house. You're not sitting on 57 G's in cash. Like, that's insane. So he's like, it's very good that you did this sewer scope before you bought it, because I've had people that didn't do it, found out after the fact, and they're in the position that seller is in, where he didn't have it sewer scoped apparently, and now this happened, and so he's understandably very perturbed. Because, I mean, who wouldn't be? It would be weird if you weren't perturbed. You know, it would be very, very strange. But yeah, man. Best case, you find a contractor that will let you pay in installments. Yeah, if they let you like finance it, some people will let you do that. But still, I mean, for that, you're paying, if they stretch it over 5 years, you're still paying 10 grand a year. Like, whatever, $800 a month or something. It's madness. Madness. 57G in Brazilian reals would be 240K. That's a 2-1, a bedroom apartment. Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited for Lies of P2. I haven't gone through my inbox yet, but we should be getting review code and all that stuff to cover the game, which should be good. Launches the 19th, right? So I'm expecting probably today or tomorrow. So that's my expectation. Bubba, we tried to play it on stream and it was really broken because it was launch day. It was launch day, so I haven't really played it after that. We tried it, but it wouldn't work. Maddie thinks the ES6 map should be Tamriel. Thoughts? I don't know. Is it bad? Okay, maybe let me do a poll. Honestly, after Starfield, I'm a lot less excited for Elder Scrolls 6. And I don't know if that's just me, but that's just how I feel. Like, I'm not actually that pumped for it. Because, like, the promise of a huge, highly scoped, like, wildly expansive, reworked Skyrim, like, it's just, you know, reworked Elder Scrolls. But, I mean, it's basically going to be Skyrim 2.0. I just don't know if that's doing it for me. Are you as hyped for ES6 after Starfield? Yeah, take a shot every time he says Starfield. Yeah, for real. Yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. Fubar, thank you also for becoming a member. That's tremendous. Thank you. Bunith, yeah, I think Starfield is just going to be one of those games that as time goes by, it's going to, like, people are going to be able to speak a little bit more openly and critique it a little more. Right now, if you say anything that's negative towards it, you're going to get swarmed. Like, it's a popular game. A lot of people are playing it. That doesn't mean it's necessarily good. Call of Duty. But I do think, actually, Starfield's a good game. I just think it is. It's not a great game. It's far from a masterpiece. Yeah. Assassin's Creed Mirage, you got a chance to play pre-release? Yeah, I am allowed to say that I've played Assassin's Creed Mirage. I am not allowed to say when the embargo for that information will lift. And of course, I can't talk about the actual game and what I played until that embargo lifts. But when that lifts, I will be happy to talk about it. You better believe it. You better believe it. Let's see. 64% are saying they are not as hyped for the Elder Scrolls 6 after Starfield. Interesting. Never was should be an option. I would just say, like, in that case, no. Because it didn't make you more hyped. You know? It didn't, like, playing Starfield didn't win you over. Elder Scrolls 6, or ES6 is Elder Scrolls 6, so sequel to Skyrim. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom video. I'm trying to figure out how to frame it. I don't know. I don't think a full critique would do that well. Frankly, I'm not sure if it's worth the time. And we have Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield, so I don't know if that would do well. I do want to analyze, like, the open world design, but frankly, the game is so freaking similar to Breath of the Wild. I don't know if that video would even be that interesting because it would just be more of the same, basically. So I don't really know. I don't really know what we're going to do. When was last good Call of Duty? 2019. I think you just have to say when they launched Warzone, that's when it was probably at its peak. Because Warzone was everywhere. I mean, it was everywhere. It's all anybody wanted to play. And then, I mean, they just slowly kind of whittled it down. Senzu, I think that's totally fair. I think, like, after this year, we're probably going to have a couple months early next year where people are just, like, so fried on all of these games that they just need a breather. Yeah, Punith, I think it's marketing stuff, and I don't think Todd is necessarily trying to lie. I mean, even if we give him the benefit of the doubt, when he says, like, there's 1,000 planets to freely explore, there's a way to interpret that where you're just freely, like, flying around, and yeah, you can go to any of them you want. They don't restrict you. But I think when most people hear freely explore, they think of exploring it freely without any barriers, including just being able to run around them on the planet, and that's just not the case. Will I do more videos on Armored Core 6? Realistically, probably not. I don't have anything against it. I really like the game. But my audience isn't that into it anyways. And critiquing or doing, like, serious breakdowns of games like that is a recipe for a headache. You're just going to deal with a very passionate fan base that doesn't tend to love critiques or criticisms. So I just don't know. Plus, I don't have a lot of experience in that genre, so it's not like I can point to a lot of other games. Like, I can critique open world games because I've done a lot of studying into the process of developing them, read plenty of books on them, and then I've also watched a lot of the game dev conferences and things that they do, like the GDC talks that, like, the Nintendo guys gave about Breath of the Wild. And we've also done our own testing with like those spreadsheets tracking points of interest and how much time is between them. I do think we're going to do a video like that for Starfield, because like if Red Dead Redemption 2, it had an 80-second rule. The Witcher 3 uses a 40-second rule. Hogwarts Legacy is down towards like 15-20 seconds once you have the fully upgraded broom and everything. Starfield is like 4.5 to 5 minutes. Which is why a lot of people find it really boring really quickly. Because that is way longer in between moments of interest for than with a lot of other games. What's this rule you speak of? It's something that the developers of The Witcher 3 spoke on, which is basically just that let me just pull it up. Witcher 3 interactive map. Let's just go White Orchard. Okay. So like this, if we look at this map, if you time out how quickly Geralt is able to ride on Roach, in between each of these major points of interest, like let's say the Place of Power, the Hidden Treasure, the Bandit Camp, and then the Guarded Treasure, if you draw a circle around this, the radius of that circle is going to be about 40 seconds of travel. And this is like all of these points of interest are spaced about 40 seconds apart, sometimes 50, sometimes 35, it just depends. But each of these, as you can see, is spaced surprisingly evenly when you compare it to the others around them. And it's because they did a lot of testing and they found that 40 seconds is where most people stay the most engaged while exploring an open world. Skyrim is also around 40. I tested it years ago, but my recollection is that it was also around 40. So, and it's fascinating. Like most of the games that have the most immersive open worlds tend to be right around 40 seconds. Red Dead Redemption 2 was at 80 seconds. It was much longer. It was basically double. And Breath of the Wild was also, if I recall correctly, like 35 to 40. So this is a rule that most open world games stick to, and for whatever reason in the human brain, we just like it when things are placed about 40 seconds apart. In Starfield, it's about 5 minutes. So it would be like having a point of interest here, nothing in here, and then one over here. And so naturally, like not even a city, nothing, just flat, empty rocks. And then something over here. And that's setting aside the process of like load screens and traveling to the planet just mindlessly, you know? Like that's why Starfield feels so kind of boring once you start to just try and explore like you used to explore in something like Skyrim. So, whether that was like worth the scale is something for each person to decide for themselves. But like when people say that they find Starfield boring, I'm not surprised at all. That's why. Like that is why. There's no debate. You know, like, and you can say, well, they did that because they wanted more space because it's in space. Like they needed more time between things. And I think that's totally fair. I have no problem with that. But then you shouldn't be surprised when people get bored with it, right? Like Red Dead Redemption 2 had things really spaced out because they wanted to give you the sense of this big, expansive Wild West, basically. And they wanted it to feel a little more realistic. And I think that is totally fair. But a lot of people also said that they got bored with Red Dead Redemption 2. So just imagine how much more dramatic it is for Starfield, you know? And I think that's just the thing is if you try to play Starfield like you play Skyrim or Fallout 4, you're going to run into this and you're going to feel super bored. You have to play it totally different. I mean, honestly, you have to embrace the fast travel and the whole idea of navigating space. You kind of have to just ignore that and just fast travel around. How many seconds or minutes do you think it would be if they implemented vehicles? I would assume that would drop down to like 30 to 40 seconds. Because if you can travel a kilometer on like a little speeder bike or a rover, and you could travel that kilometer in like 30 seconds, that I think is much more reasonable. And then I don't think they'd have a problem. I think then it would be a totally different game. But the reason that they didn't do that is because one, they wanted to make the planets feel really big. And because they could only make these little tiles at a time, one at a time, they realized if they gave you vehicles, you'd be running into those invisible walls real quick. Because people, once they have a vehicle, they're like, oh, I'm just going to go into the distance and explore. I just inhaled my own throat. And people would do that, and then they would hit the wall, and that would bum them out. Because even if it's not that big of a deal, when people hit invisible walls, automatically, they kind of have a little, reaction. Even if the map is huge, once you see that barrier, it's like seeing how the sausage is made. Your brain just kind of goes, oh, well, that kind of broke the illusion, right? So, yeah, I think rovers are like the weirdest exclusion. And I've said this since before the game launched. You guys remember earlier this year, I made videos saying, I don't know why people aren't more confused by this. This seems to be the most insane exclusion that nobody's talking about. You're going to give me a planet to explore and not give me a way to explore it quickly. I have to run around. And you're like, oh, you have a boost pack. The boost pack doesn't change your forward speed, by the way. It just moves you up and down. Test it. I've tested it. If you pick 2 rocks, you run between them sprinting, it'll take you, say, 10 seconds. And then you do it while sprinting and using your boost pack, it'll take you 10 seconds. It doesn't change your forward speed. You just go up and down, like on a merry-go-round. It's like thinking the horse that goes up and down is moving faster than the one that's staying stationary. It's like, no. You know, when I realized that? When I was 3 years old, and I decided to just go on the one that goes up and down because it was more fun. Like, there's just, also the stamina is limited. Yeah, there's just so many little things where I'm like, this just is weird. It's a weird, strange development decision, and I don't like it. Some people might, but I think the lack of vehicles is one of the most bizarre choices for a game. And I think it's probably most likely because, like I said, they don't want you to run into those invisible walls quickly. And also because they probably were having problems with data streaming. If you've tried to increase movement speed or walking speed in Starfield with console commands, you'll know what I'm talking about. Immediately, it starts chugging. Crazy pop-in, crazy dropped frames. And that's running on a supercomputer, and it still does that. So imagine on a console, if they gave you vehicles, I'm sure it would run like absolute ass. Thanks for the human connection, my man. You're welcome. Dude, we need to just watch that video once a month. Because it's such a good reminder of, of why hype is so dangerous. Yeah, we don't need vehicles. We have a booster pack. Boost pack only goes up. Exactly. It's insane. And then Todd got really uncomfortable with the question. He's like, and using the boost pack on low gravity planets just really feels special. It's like, bro, feels special. Okay. Starfield feels special. Confirmed. Confirmed by Todd himself. It's just so freaking dumb. But people just don't think critically about this stuff. They're just like, but Todd said the thing. I'm like, yeah, he lied to you very recently. Yeah, but he said the thing I think sounds cool. You seem to hate Starfield. I like Starfield. I've had a good time with it. And there's a lot to discover. I mean, I've had a really good time with it. Like I said, I think it's a good game. What I hate is the lack of critical thought surrounding the game and the fanboyism that puts blinders up where people just can't speak honestly on it. Like Todd said that they didn't need to spend the time developing the lack of load screens, the seamless transitions from planet to space. They didn't need to do that because he didn't think it was important to their players. And I think he was right. Because even now you see people coping and saying, well, no, we don't need the vehicles. I think running on foot is totally fine. That's why he's not making improvements to these games. That's why this game plays the same as all these other games, but just slightly worse for free exploration, you know? Yeah, it's a huge game, but free exploration in Fallout 4 and Skyrim is much more immersive because there's not 15,000 load screens as you're walking through the forests or the wastes. You know, the only bad things to say, I as I've said many times, we have lots of good things to say, but you can assert good things all you want. You have to justify your bad things. So I can say I really like the gunplay. I think the ship customization is freaking awesome. I can't get enough of it. If they did like a spin-off, kind of like they're doing with Skull and Bones for Black Flag, if they did a spin-off Bethesda game with another studio or something where it's all about spaceship customization with this system and like dogfights and stuff, I'd be all in. I freaking love the spaceship customization. Like I think the quest lines for the factions are really, really good, and I think they're written well, they're performed super well. All of that I think is tremendous. But I get to just assert all of that. But when I make a critique, I have to justify it, which is why I spend more time explaining like the 40-second rule and how this thing is basically a 5-minute rule. And that's why it feels boring for people that are trying to play it in a way that they would have played Skyrim or Fallout 4. So we have to spend time to unpack the critiques, whereas good stuff and compliments, things that we like, we can just assert and nobody has a problem with that. But if you assert a critique and don't back it up, people have a problem. Yeah, I saw the footage of the Skull and Bones, like whatever it was, playtest beta, I think it was. And honestly, I thought it looked relatively good. Graphically, I think it looks pretty good. The cutscenes and stuff they showed looked pretty good. I think it's clearly struggling with an identity issue a little bit. But I think it looks like it definitely could appeal to some people. As to whether it's not, or whether or not it's worth $70 is another question.
Super chatted $5. Speaking of it, why would I customize my ship when I hardly spend any time in my ship? I'm just fast traveling through menus, hardly ever in the thing.
That I think is one of the strengths of Starfield, actually, is that if you don't want to do the ship stuff, you don't have to. In the same way, like a lot of people have played Starfield and never touched the base building. Like you don't have to touch it if you don't want to. Unlike like Fallout 4, which kind of forced you to use the base building stuff early on. So they let you like play with it if you want to. If you don't want to play with it, you don't have to. That's one of the nice things is like if you want to just fly the basic ship and never really tweak it, you can do that. Like there's a couple like faction quests, and in the main quest there's a couple points where having an upgraded ship or tweaking it a little would be beneficial. In the main story, they do have a section towards the end where you do have to... Actually, I think you can do it at one of your bases. Well, you're going to have to engage with one of the crafting systems. But there's also a lot of people that have like never really messed with the weapon modification system or the space suit modification system. And it's just because there's a lot of systems in the game, you know? Yeah, there's no ship or anything like Black Flag. Yeah, this is kind of closer to like, what is it? World of Tanks, I think is what it is, where you control the tanks and that's it. Like that's what this is. So I think when they said and compared it to Black Flag, that was probably the biggest mistake, but it's also really hard to ignore that it's using a lot of the same systems. Because people are inevitably going to be like, well, in Black Flag, I could explore islands. In Black Flag, I could board the ship and fight with melee combat. I could do all this. And they're not doing this, which doesn't mean that this game's going to be bad, but it like automatically feels like you're getting a smaller package. You know? Because in some ways you are. I mean, the rest of the game could be like way bigger and expansive, and it could make up for that. There could be other things Black Flag offers, but I've spoken to a number of people. Of course, off the record, they're not allowed to like go on and share extensive stuff unless they got a particular type of NDA, is my understanding. But I've spoken to a handful of people, and people have messaged me that have played previous play tests of Skull and Bones and also these current ones. And they actually have like surprisingly positive things to say. So I don't think that this is going to be a game for everybody. Like this is by no means going to take the world by storm or become like the next big thing. But I do think there are a good number of people who are going to play this and probably have a really good time with it. Again, $70. I don't think so. But like a Game Pass game, I think it's probably a no-brainer if they can get it on something like that. Which they have to know, right? Like they have to know that this thing is not worth $70. There's no way that they just like throw it out without any other options, but I don't know, maybe. Maybe they'll surprise me. We shall see. Sea of Thieves is better than both. I think Sea of Thieves is really good in a lot of ways. I do think they have to revamp the onboarding for new players. It's really daunting. I've introduced a handful of people to that game, and it's tough to get into if you don't have somebody kind of explaining to you how the questing works and all that stuff, you know. It's tough. No, Mr. K, you're fine. I see it here in my list. It just only super chats above $5 get text to speech. That's how it breaks down. But no, I did not see the subliminal gameplay trailer. I can pull that up though.
Drinner D super chatted $5. Hey Luke, did anyone ask you what you thought about donkeys? Let the gamers review of Starfield.
I thought it was kind of brilliant, honestly. Like to just to be like, okay, people get upset when I say stuff about games, so what if we just let them say the stuff about the game and we'll just leave it and do that. I thought it was kind of brilliant. And I think it's just with all this, like we're all talking about Starfield because like frankly it does well. People just like talking about it. It's weird, but people do just like talking about it. And not many games come along where they just want to talk about it. Like even now, we got 420 dab on the haters in the stream right now, and we've been rambling about Starfield for a little while now, and you'd think that we'd all be sick and tired of it, and I sort of am, but it's just because it's the game on people's minds, whether they love it or whether they hate it. You know, it's just that in and of itself is an achievement for any game, to just be something that people want to talk about. That's something a lot of games would kill for. You know, I've never seen such split in opinions. I mean, I think Fallout 4 actually was another example of it. Bethesda just makes their own kind of game, and they're always like a little behind the curve of what other studios are able to do. So gamers that come along and compare it to contemporary titles in the same genres say, this is inferior. I don't like it as much. And then the hardcore Bethesda fans are like, I get that it's inferior technologically, say, but I don't care. It's still really good. You know, I still have fun with it. And that's just where the distinction is. And it's not any more complicated than that. I can point out like technological shortcomings of Starfield, but that doesn't mean that the game isn't worth playing. It can still be worth playing. It can still be super fun, you know? It can still be super fun. Sean, thank you, my friend.
Sean Dara super chatted $64.56. Been a while since I've caught a live chat.
Yeah, dude, for real. Hopefully all is well. I know you've got stuff going on, but Jesus, thank you. Pog in chat. Mad Poggers for Sean. Mad Poggers. Thank you, my friend. That's very generous. And also 8 months. Banger tune. Yeah, this is Skyrim, but it's lo-fi beats is what the thing is called. And it's just Skyrim's OST redone with like lo-fi twists to it. It's really good, actually. I'm like kind of impressed. Pog means play of game or play of the game. So it's like MVP kind of thing, you know? Pretty good. That's interesting. It converted to US. Yeah, I think it does that because for one, that's how it'll tally it on my screen because I'm in the US. And also because like it asks you to set the bar for like text to speech. And so I have it set to $5. Otherwise we just get flooded with like $1 super chats that are just like 15 W's in a row. So I set it to 5 to kind of try to combat that a little. But yeah, so it converts it and then compares it to wherever those are. But yeah, thank you again, Sean. That's very, very generous. Let's see. Let me catch up on these. Did I see? Yeah, I answered Drinner. Samaya, I'm sorry, I missed one of yours. It's funny because I'm excited for AC Mirage just because it's not a big open world, lol. I love Neon and Starfield just because of its density. Yeah, and I can't say what I was about to say. Ooh, that was almost bad. I will talk about Mirage in the future. I will behave. Okay, yeah. I will talk about it more in the future. I almost just went off and like started talking about it freely. Oh, that was close. Whew. Oh man. No, Guru, I don't think they will. I just think, like, again, like Todd Howard said, I saw it in the I don't know. I don't know if it was the Friedman interview or if it was on Kind of Funny Games, but Todd was asked why they didn't have like seamless planet to space transitions, and he said, like, we just haven't spent the time working on it because we don't think that's important to our players. We just think that would be a lot of dev time and coding and systems reworking that we don't need to do because our players don't care about that sort of thing. And I think he's right. They don't care about that sort of thing. But I think that's part of the problem. Why they, like, you're never going to see them really transform the creation engine because, frankly, they don't need to. Like, their fans don't really care. It's not going to affect how their games perform in the market. So, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Is basically what it is. What do I think about the music in Starfield? We talked about it on stream before. I think it sounds shockingly similar, the main theme, shockingly similar to the Hunger Games theme from
Trey
those
Smith
films.
super chatted $4.99.
It's good, but very similar.
Are you familiar with Patrician TV and his video essays on BGS games?
The name is super familiar. I don't think I've seen any of his essays though. Unless we've watched them on stream and I'm just blanking on them, but I don't think I've seen any of his essays. But the name is super, super familiar. Are they good? Or are you telling me to stay away from them? Thank you for the super chat, my friend. Thank you. And yeah, and also, like, I agree with what, like, the Digital Foundry guys have said. Everybody that's just saying, oh, Starfield, like, should have just been in Unreal. They should make Skyrim, oh my god, that was so cringe. They should make Elder Scrolls 6 in Unreal Engine. And I'm like, bro, have you seen how all of these Unreal Engine games are running recently? You saw Jedi Survivor, right? Callisto Protocol, Gotham Knights. Like, you've seen these open world Unreal Engine games. They can be fun, but man, they have some technical difficulties. Very tough to get working. Noah Caldwell Gervais, that also is super familiar. I don't really watch any other like gaming essayists, if that's a thing, or a lot of other gaming YouTubers. I watch like gaming news guys, but I don't really watch other people's reviews. I don't really watch stuff like that. His one on Skyrim's 20 hours. Ooh, baby. Good on him. I like Jorah, but that guy be shilling. I love Skyrim or Starfield, but the game has many issues, which is fine, but shouldn't be defended. Yeah, Bleska, I love Jor Raptor. Like, he's brilliant, and I think he balances me out really well, because Jor Raptor is one of those like optimists. He'll always look at the glass half full, you know, whereas I'm like, it's not half full, it's just a half filled glass. Like, it's not, we don't have to add any emotional weirdness to it. There's just half of the volume is filled. You can say, oh, it's half empty, it's half full. I don't care. It's just a glass is half of its capacity is filled, you know, like. And I think he can kind of offer a fun twist. But, like, you know, Jor really liked Forspoken. He thinks Forspoken is, it gets too much hate. And I've noticed, like, in the past, a lot of games that I find shockingly mid, he likes and is fairly positive towards. So I think we just have different tastes. But in general, I think that he is more of an optimist. And I just think, like, when I pushed back, I feel a little bad. When I pushed back a lot in that podcast on Wednesday of last week, I think it was, I I think it came off as more hostile than it was. I was just trying to get him to be like, let's just admit that like it's technologically very outdated, you know? Like, let's just admit that, and then we can move on. But sometimes getting people to admit things like that is just like pulling teeth, you know? Oh, he also liked Forspoken. You're throwing him under the bus. No, I mean, he liked Forspoken. I'm glad people like games that I don't. You know, somebody's getting enjoyment from them. And like, I think I understand what he's saying. Like, he says the combat system in Forspoken is really, really good, and the some of the set pieces within Forspoken were really impressive. And I totally agree with all of that. I don't have a problem with that. I don't think those things outweigh the crappy writing and the cringe and stuff like that, and the bad world design. I think that those things, the bad outweighs the good, but he just views the scale differently, and everybody does. Just like my little brother I mentioned at the top of the stream, my little brother really does not like Starfield. Like, he hates the game. He's tried to play it, gave it like 2 hours, could not stand it. But that's because for him and what he like prefers in games, it balanced differently. Whereas for like me, you know, I think it actually balances out generally positive, you know? An LA Noire remake would be like, I think like it would be tough because they'd have to redo everything. I don't think that there is a way that they can salvage the face scan tech. They can't really salvage the voice recordings because those were tied to the face capture tech. As far as I can tell, they'd have to do a Mafia Definitive Edition. They would have to redo the whole thing from scratch, which I think would be great. I'd be totally down for that. But the problem is there's only a handful of studios, I think, on the planet that are capable of building a world like that in a compelling way. And Team Bondi is gone. They were shut down. So now Rockstar doesn't really have any other teams that could do it. They have the Rockstar main team, but of course they're working on GTA 6, and I don't think that they're gonna put Red Dead aside or GTA aside to go and do LA Noire, you know? So I would love to see it, but I just don't think we're going to, unfortunately. It's a big bummer to me, but what are you gonna do? Yeah, Mafia Definitive Edition, I think, is the best freaking remake we've ever seen. It's just stunningly good. It is so good. Let's talk about that real quick, because I just saw that news story pop up. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay, you ready for this? This was shocking. This was stunning. Jason Schreier reported today, embattled video game conglomerate Embracer Group is looking to sell Borderlands maker Gearbox just 2.5 years after purchasing them for $1.3 billion. Bloomberg News can confirm. Gearbox will also explore spinning off and going independent. And if we look at this, I'm guessing he's going to get into, he'll get into it. This is all because of a deal that fell through with Saudi Arabia. That's why all of these things are happening. They just shut down Volition, which was also an Embracer Group game or studio. And they did, of course, the Saints Row remake. And that's, all tied to this. So all of a sudden, Embracer Group is just shutting down a ton of stuff, which is wild. Swedish video game conglomerate Embracer Group AB is looking to sell Gearbox Entertainment just 2.5 years after purchase them for $1.3 billion. Let's see. The Frisco, Texas-based game developer is best known for Borderlands. The video game series has sold 77 million copies and generated more than $1 billion in revenue. The base case, quote, the base case is that Gearbox remains part of Embracer. Whoops. This was the chief communications officer. However, there are many options under consideration, including Gearbox's transfer, taking Gearbox independent, and others. Ultimately, we'll move ahead with whichever plan is best for both Gearbox and Embracer. Embracer has spent the past few years snatching up game studios all across the world, but this year began a period of reorganization following a failed $2 billion deal with Saudi Arabia's gaming group. This month, the company closed down Illinois-based game studio Volition and laid off staff all across its other divisions. Quote, nothing's been decided yet, but there will be lots of speculation in the coming weeks. Basically, there was a deal where Saudi Arabia's gaming investment fund was going to be throwing a ton of cash at them, $2 billion worth as just an injection. That deal fell through for a bunch of reasons, including lack of performing titles, things like the big titles that were supposed to perform really well, like Saints Row, just falling apart. And so that deal fell through, and now they were expecting to have $2 billion that they don't have. So now they're just kind of like, well, crap. You know, it's like somebody goes and buys a really expensive car that's got like $1,000 monthly payment, and they got it because they thought they were going to get this new job that was going to pay them $5,000 a month or 10 grand, whatever it is. And then that job falls through, and now they're stuck at their old job where they make $2,500 a month. And so then they're like, well, crap, my new car is going to be like almost half of my monthly income. I can't afford this anymore. And so they get rid of the car. That's what they're doing by trying to get rid of this, by trying to get rid of Gearbox, is they're like, I don't think we can afford this anymore. And so they're passing it off. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Stefan, 10 months. Man, it feels like just yesterday was 9. Jesus. Thank you for 10 months of support. Gearbox is such an iconic studio. Imagine not knowing what to do with it. Yeah. No, it's such a bummer because they also have some incredible IP. It's just frustrating as all hell. God Emperor of Sofa King, or God Emperor Sofa King. I love it. I would laugh if Microsoft buys it after Activision Blizzard King. I'm sure they got a call from Phil. I'm sure. I would bet a lot of money Phil has hopped on the phone this morning to give him a call. And maybe it's like, listen, fam, if you can just hold out like 6 months or a year or something, we get this Activision deal sorted. We can come and take that off your hands for you. Why wouldn't they? $1 billion, that's chump change. Chump change, I tell you. For Microsoft, that's nothing. We're freaking out about this 75 billion or 69, I guess, with inflation, blah, blah, blah. But let's just say $69 billion deal with Activision Blizzard. 1 billion? That for Microsoft is like upgrading from a Grande to a Venti. You know, that for them is like, sure. That's no biggie for them. Oh man. So I wouldn't be surprised at all. Again, let me be clear, because I think a lot of people misunderstand my statements that of course they're going to try to do that as endorsement. I don't want Microsoft to be buying all these companies. I think the gaming industry is at its healthiest when there's a lot of independent publishers and developers that are able, especially privately held stuff like Larian and companies like that. Those offer the best games typically. And I think that that's when the industry is at its healthiest. If I were God Emperor of Mankind, I wouldn't let these deals go through. But unfortunately for everybody, I'm not God Emperor of Mankind. So I don't really have a say. I don't like that this is happening, but of course, I think big conglomerates are going to swoop in and try to buy up Gearbox. Get Borderlands on Game Pass? It's a no-brainer. Sony might, because Gearbox's stuff is primed for live service and they're pouring so much money into live service. I wouldn't be shocked because Microsoft's tied up right now. Sony might approach them and just be like, hey, maybe. Monopoly, it's not really a monopoly. It's like an oligopoly. It's different. But yeah, it's when a few control the majority of the market, and that's a problem. Like I said, I don't like it. But they can. Like in the context of the gaming industry, Gearbox is actually pretty small. when you compare it to all of the other huge players, you know. Every time I remember that Sony is all for live service games, now I die a little inside. Yeah. Well, it's just, we've seen a little taste of it, but we haven't seen the full force of that change in approach. So, man, it's going to be, yeah, it's going to be a lot. And it's going to piss off a lot of people. And I just want everybody to be braced, because, man.
Stefan Konstantin Dumitrash super chatted $5.52. Did you hear that BioWare considers returning ME to its more linear roots? Also, should MS or Sony bid for BioWare and their IPs?
I mean, it all just kind of depends on what EA's long-term vision is for them. Like, those IP, frankly, right now are worth more than I would assume the studio is worth when you factor everything in with the talent and everything. Because I would assume they lost a lot of talent after Anthem. So I would guess that the IP is why they still have a BioWare to begin with. And so I don't think that they would sell those off, or even license them off. But it just depends, like, what they're planning to do with Mass Effect, what they're planning to do with all these other projects that they have going on. I think they have options, but hopefully they're just giving BioWare enough time that the next Dragon Age comes along and is fantastic and lovely, and then they do another Mass Effect, and that's also just a return to form, and they just figure it out. You know, it just performs well. They only need a couple of, like, pretty good response games, like a couple in the 80s to, I think, be back on their feet with the gears turning. But that's like a decade, because games take so long to make now. So, Luke, do you think if Mirage flops, AC will have another reimagining like from Syndicate to Origins? I don't think so. Just because we know all about the other Assassin's Creed projects that they're working on right now, such as, fantastic transition. Thank you for setting me up with that, Nachi. Such as this little collection from Rhino on Twitter, who collected a bunch of official information and then rumors and speculation about these games, specifically Hexe. If you don't know about Hexe, this is the one that's like two, I guess if you count Mirage, it's like 3 games away. So there's Mirage, and I guess Jade, but that's a mobile game. But there's like Mirage coming out in like a month, Jade after that sometime, Red, which is set in Japan, and then after that is Hexe. Okay, that's where it is in the timeline. Hexe is, quote, a very different game from upcoming flagship or from other Assassin's Creed titles. It features strong feminine energy. I would assume that's their way of saying it has a female protagonist, but I don't know. Maybe they mean something else. I don't really know what that means. Just going to be honest. I don't know what strong female or feminine energy means. Written by franchise veteran and narrative director Darby McDevitt. This is, if you love Assassin's Creed, this is a huge selling point. That Darby's working on it. That's a big deal. Developed by Ubisoft Montreal, the team behind all of the like main titles since 2007. They want to, quote, leave a lasting mark on the franchise. So they want it to be really unique. It's going to be the first of 2 games, or one of the first 2 games to launch on AC Infinity, with Red, the other one, that comes out just before it, being also on Infinity. And then they're going to launch, yep, like I said, after Mirage and after Red. Themes revolve around witchcraft, based on the name Hexe, meaning witch in German, derived from the Old German Hagasusa, maybe? I don't know. The imagery shown in the teaser and the pentagram in the official logo and key art. Rumors are that it's set in Central Europe in the 16th century, focusing on the pivotal point in history revolving around the mass hysteria about witchcraft, that gripped the continent, I can't read today, leading to witch trials where 80,000 people were executed according to Bloomberg and Insider Gaming, which means it's almost certainly going to be set in this period and in this space. And then his personal speculation is that the game may likely involve alchemy, science confused as magic, plus the fabled philosopher's stone, which may potentially be technology of the first civilization. I wouldn't be shocked if that's true. And then judging by Yara Tabara's statement, the game will likely feature the series' first solo female protagonist in a mainline game. That's my understanding. I don't know what else strong feminine energy would mean, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. They're spending a lot of time on it. Presumably a lot of money. I mean, when all is said and done, this will have been in development for probably like 4 to 5 years with one of the biggest studios, like thousands of developers working on this. Like, this is a huge game. So when I say like, I don't know what's going to happen with Mirage, if Mirage like hypothetically flops or implodes, which I don't think it will, but like even if it did, I don't think that affects any of this because this is already greenlit, middle of production, and this is very different from Mirage by what we can tell. So I think it's gonna it wouldn't really affect it because it's doing its own thing. So we'll see. But already they have the next like 3, 4, 5 years of Assassin's Creed stuff lined up and already planned. It's just crazy. So they seemingly have everything planned already. We'll see. Do you know about the Wonder Woman game? It seems like news is very quiet compared to Wolverine or Suicide Squad. It is very quiet. And that is a team that is very capable. Monolith, they did Shadow of War, and that was in 2017. So they haven't done anything in 6 years. Like, what are they doing? Presumably they spent like a year doing proof of concept stuff for the Wonder Woman game because it's so different. But like, what are they doing? I don't know. So, I mean, even if you say a year to do that and get the project greenlit, that's still 5 years in development. It feels like we should be seeing a lot more about it. Maybe they just announce it sometime next year, and then in the span of like 6 months, all of a sudden it comes in and is fully released. We'll see. But I'm pretty sure the case with Suicide Squad, didn't they say that that they had the full working prototype of the Superman game that they pitched and that was rejected? I don't remember if they said it was a year or like a year and a half that they spent working on the prototype, but they basically built a whole small vertical slice of a Superman game, pitched it to Warner Brothers executives, and they said no. But like initially I was like, okay, so they said no, so the game probably wasn't very good. Now that we've seen Suicide Squad, now that it's been revealed and everything, to me, I'm guessing that it was probably very similar to the Arkham series and was just a single player game with some like cosmetic DLC. And they wanted their top of the line studio to make a multiplayer game that would really print the money. And so they assigned them to this thing. And now, I mean, Suicide Squad, I think we're all kind of braced for that to suck donkey ass. Let's be real. I think we all know that it's I don't know how they save it. Like, I honestly have no idea how they save it. The perception is already so freaking negative. It's next to impossible to dig yourself out of a hole like this. Are there any other examples you guys can think of games that were announced, horrifically received? Maybe X Defiant, but that hasn't even launched yet. But like horribly received when they announced it, and then they somehow managed to pull it off and have like a positive reception when it launched. It's like good reviews. Gollum. Dead Island 2 kinda. Was the response really negative when they announced it? Kingdom Come. Foam Stars. I guess we'll see how that does, but that also hasn't launched. Overwatch 2. I've only heard like weird things. I actually have a thing about Overwatch 2 pulled up from Yong. So I don't actually know if Overwatch 2 is still doing well. Dead Island 2 only had people worried because it was in development hell. Yeah, that's true. And I think that was very valid, to be fair. I mean, it was in development hell for so long. 30K player peak in 24 hours. Is that through Steam DB? Or is that official? Because I only played Overwatch through the Blizzard launcher. You know, Steam DB. There's people launching it through Steam, so it's probably, I mean, they probably have like 100, 200,000 people in there at a time, I would think. And then, of course, console.
James Norman super chatted $6.34.
I don't know.
I hate that Kevin Conroy's last performance as the Batman will be tied up in this dog egg of a game.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. I mean, I hope that they manage to like totally blow us all away, and we're gonna be looking back at this in 2 years after the games come out, and we're just like, wow, Suicide Squad, what a great game. Can you believe that we hated on that when it was first announced? Man, now that I've played it, I get it now. I hope that's what we're saying. I don't think that's what we're gonna be saying, but I hope that's what we're saying. I would love to see another like comeback story. I would love to see it. Let's see. Speaking of Overwatch 2, let's touch on Yong's little thing about some more drama related to Overwatch 2. I can't keep up with it nowadays. Honestly, it seems like every day there's something crazy happening. So let's see what's happening with Overwatch. What did they do now?
Here we go again. Plenty of people are not happy with the state of this game. The user score, you can see it's pretty low on the Metacritic scale. Then if we...
A lot of this is just directly tied, though, to the fact that they basically lied about what was coming to the game and then changed their mind after they sold it to you and got you to spend time and money in it. So I think the negative responses to the game are fair. 182,000 negative reviews. And of the recent reviews, 175,000, which... That means, what does anybody know on, well, I guess it's all since August 10th. That's very quick. Jesus Christ. So in the span of basically a month, they have 182,000 reviews and they're overwhelmingly negative. That's wild.
You go to Steam, the user reviews are still overwhelmingly negative, sitting at 9%. That's both recent reviews and overall reviews, making it literally the worst user reviewed game on Steam.
If you're out downvoted past NBA 2K24, and I mean honestly any of the NBA 2K, because the NBA 2K, that's the franchise that was like introducing real ads, like real commercial breaks into the game. Like they actually were trying to insert commercial breaks into the video game, because like sports fans are already acclimated to there's a play, commercial. There's a play, commercial. And so they're like, yeah, we can get away with it. And I don't know. Does anybody know if it's still in there? Is it still in the game? Yeah, it has straight up gambling too. Yeah, they have all sorts of like weird gotcha card stuff to get characters. Like it's insane. It's one of the most toxic games I've ever seen. Like it's horrifying how they did it. No, they removed it. Yeah, I think they'll probably try again. I think they'll probably try again. Dude, just play basketball in real life. No, it's not the same because then I get sweaty.
Ever by a pretty significant margin as well. I've already covered why that is, from Overwatch 2 not really making a significant leap from Overwatch 1 to its monetization and progression and reward systems and loops being a lot worse. And on top of that, you've got things like how the PvE was greatly diminished by how they cut the hero missions. They did retain the story missions, but even then, those are not all that substantial. You know, like they offer some fun, 2 hours or so worth of content, and there are going to be more story missions down the line, but you have to pay $15 for each new set of story missions, or pay some kind of fee for new story missions. So, for this free-to-play experience, the fact that you have to pay after They cut hero missions with the skill trees and all of the missions that would take advantage of your ability to kind of customize your heroes. All of that's left a very sour taste in people's mouths. Now,
and I don't like sour tastes. Who am I kidding? I do.
big part of the attraction of Overwatch is the characters, their backstories, and the overall lore. And that's one area that stands to be compromised as well, because Blizzard recently decided to update Overwatch with official ages for...
Okay, I'm all in for hating on Blizzard. We all know how fun it is. But is this just going to be like the stupidest thing ever? Is this going to be like actual rage over them assigning numbered ages to these characters? Or are they going to do something really weird and stupid where like some of them are like 12 years old? I don't know. I'm braced for this to be really dumb. Let's see.
For all of the different characters, if you go to the official Overwatch website and say, take a look at Ilari, you can see right here that she was born on December 21st. She's age 18. You can go back and take a look at Genji and see that he was born on October 28th and is 37 years old, so on and so forth. So why is this getting backlash? Well, because if...
Jesus, serious, still legal. Jesus Christ. I mean, I guess he's going to get into it. I am already like, is this really what we're doing? Are we really like raging about them assigning ages to characters? But let's see what else there is. There's got to be more, because this seems shockingly dumb. Like, I like to dunk on Yang a little bit, because it seems like sometimes he just tries to drudge up whatever he can to like get upset about. But let's see what else there is here.
If you think about the ages in relation to the lore and the backstories that have been revealed thus far, a lot of these ages don't actually make any sense whatsoever. It just feels like whoever decided to give these characters the current ages, they just kind of threw numbers out there without really considering what the Overwatch lore has established.
Oh no, is it going to be one of those things where like they say that one of the characters is 18 right now, but then they have a backstory where 2 years ago they did something that then you're like, oh wait, they were underage or something? Is there going to be something like that? I don't know. I could see this going bad.
It's just baffling fans. You know, at the very least, fans had the story and the lore to cling on to, but when even that is being kind of butchered or at least being inconsistent where it just breaks immersion, that's when Overwatch really is going to start to lose the fans. And a lot of fans are...
I mean, I don't think fans are going to leave once you've broken the immersion of the ages of characters. I think it's just another example of them throwing something out without thinking about it. But I mean, we'll see.
Baffled by this. So this right here is somebody who posted, heroes in Overwatch 2 now have canon birthdays and ages. And scrolling down, you can see that plenty of people are pointing out that there's some nonsensical elements here, like how the fuck is Kiriko 21 when allegedly she grew up with Hanzo and Genji, and they're like twice her age? And you can see that these issues are widespread enough that tweets like this, highlighting how Overwatch did the funniest thing possible, release ages that completely fuck over and destroy the barely there existing lore of the world they've been trying to build for 7 years. Tweets like these have gained tons of traction. This one right here has...
And that's why Young made a video on it. I mean, this is like really stupid. Like this is, this is like really, really dumb. Like I said, I love hating on Blizzard as much as the next guy. But if we're going this far, like we are grasping at straws. Like we're grasping at straws in another
Frederick super chatted $5. Overwatch, Apex Legends, and Rainbow Six Siege. Shooters where absolutely no one cares about the lore anymore.
Yeah, I think when he said like, oh, this is another reason people are going to like stop playing or something, like I don't think that that's the case. I mean, if you stop playing Overwatch because of this, I don't know what is wrong with you. Like, I think we need to have a talk. Like, it's something else is going on in your life if this is the last straw. Like, yeah, I saw one comment, somebody was like, oh, the fedora wearers on Reddit have had enough. Yeah, that's what this makes me think of. It's like, Well, actually, their ages do not line up because they went to high school together, and that wouldn't make sense because he is 37 years old and she is 18 years old. Let me talk to my body pillow about this, and I will be back. You know, like, I can't see any well-adjusted person actually being upset about this, other than like, yeah, it's kind of funny that Blizzard is so dumb that they put this thing out as canon and didn't even think to check it and cross-reference it with other things in the lore. Like, yeah, it's an example of Blizzard not thinking about something before they do it, which they've done a lot recently. Just look at all the balancing updates they've put out for some of their bigger games, for example. But like, to actually pretend as though this is a scandal is pretty insane. Like, it's pretty stupid. Can we all agree about this? Let's do a poll real quick. I just need to know if you guys are also with me. How stupid is this? Hold on, in quotes. Story. Super stupid. Okay. Just go ahead and answer the poll real quick. I just want to know your thoughts. Just so we know kind of where we're all at. You haven't even talked about the last poll. We did. It was at 64% of people said that they were not as stoked for Elder Scrolls 6 after Starfield. But Luke, my Overwatch wife whose backstory is all wrong. Yeah. Oh man. Oh, that's funny. Oh yeah, the fact that you're making so light of the deep Overwatch lore really shows the kind of person you are. So sad. I know, it's so sad. I'm so sad about it too. Oh man. But what about Uber super duper stupid? Yeah, you're right. I didn't do that one. God damn it. Crap. Now this data is useless. Jesus. Oh man. Okay. Somebody earlier super chatted and asked me to look at the subliminal gameplay trailer. Let's look at that. I was ready for I was ready to hop on board the make fun of Blizzard train. But like, even for Yong, who we like to make fun of sometimes because he does stuff like this, even for Yong, that was like a nothing burger on steroids. Like, that was hilariously stupid. Let's see what else we got. Subliminal official gameplay trailer. Like I said, somebody in chat, super chat, and asked me if I had seen this. I have not, so let's see it together. What is this about?
Warning. Viewer discretion is advised.
Okay.
Hello and welcome. Your safety is our priority. As you embark on your experience, please take note and remember these few tips to ensure a safe and pleasant journey.
Okay.
Stay calm and composed. Panic can cloud your judgment and disorient you.
I'm gonna
Take
panic.
a moment to take a deep breath, relax, and continue along your journey. Use your light source to help you navigate through the experience. Doing this ensures that there are no unwanted surprises and keeps you fully aware of your surroundings. Avoid making eye contact with any unfamiliar faces. This is mandatory, and failure to do so will result in an overwhelming and self.
It's like a job application at GameStop. Avoid making eye contact. In-game footage. Oh, so they've done like the actual 3D scans of like a real house, it looks like. Bro, this is mad trippy. It's like... It's super uncanny valley. This like hurts my brain. hope you can turn off the head wobble, because that's going to make me so motion sick. It looks really graphically impressive. But then like when we see the monster, it looks like shit. You know? Let's see. Like right there. Like all the lighting and everything on the environment is phenomenal, but then when it gets to this guy, it just looks like a sock puppet. So I hope this isn't one of those where like the environments are great because it's all taken with Unreal Engine store assets and stuff. But then when you actually get to the stuff that they've made by hand, it looks like garbage. But we'll see. I mean, so far, let's be honest, it looks graphically impressive, but I have no idea if this is going to be a fun game. You know, like no idea. No idea. Monster sus, yeah. And like the whole point of exploring this is to run away from the monster. And I think it probably needs a little more love just based on what I'm seeing. But it's not bad. I mean, I've seen a lot worse. I've seen a lot worse. So we'll see. We'll see. Again, I mean, we've also seen trailers that end up kind of walking back the the fidelity a fair bit, but we'll see. I mean, we can barely see the monster. That's the trick. Wait, guys, I have an idea. If people can't see, if they can't see the monster, we don't have to put that much effort into the monster. So if they can't see anything, we don't have to put as much effort into anything. I've cracked the code. We'll just turn the screen black for the whole game. It'll be great. It'll be great. Problem solved. 3D scans for the ultra photorealistic graphics. Terrible game where you run through high fidelity environments with nothing to do except solve a color button puzzle. Yeah, that's where you have to be a little skeptical of that stuff. Like it looks great, but then you have to ask yourself, okay, but what's the game though? Like, but what's the game? I just got a text from my broker for the house, so I'm going to call him back. He just asked if I can call him real quick. So I think I'm going to find out here in just a second if we are still under contract or if the seller is walking. So I'm going to call real quick. And when I'm back, I might be very happy. I might be very sad. I don't know. So we're going to go on a BRB screen. I'm going to play some AC Syndicate sounds and music, and then I will be back. So hold tight. You guys hold tight the chat, and I will return momentarily. Oh, and it's a babe and baby. Hello. I was just about to go on a BRB screen because I've got to call the broker real quick. Oh. So I'll be back, guys. I'll be back. BRB.
Will stick. 'Cause now
Okay. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. Look at you guys. There's still 300 of you in here. I don't deserve you. I don't deserve you guys. You're too nice. Okay. Good news. Okay. They are going to fix it. Because they went out there. They're out there right now. And there was, they got a second opinion. And they did the live sewer scope actually showing the footage. The owner was there. And they showed him like, it's actually probably a little worse than the other plumber said. It's like, it's not just 39 feet-ish. It's probably like 50, 60 feet. So this is a problem. And the seller, who, to his credit, he is pretty well off. He owns a lot of investment properties. And he said, he's like, this is being bought by like a normal person, right? It's not being bought by investors. They're like, yeah, it's like a guy, his wife, and his 2 kids. He's like, okay, we'll get it taken care of. It's like, we're not going to push back. So that's very nice of him. So they're going to be doing that. They have to tear up a lot of the front. But here's the goody part. We can say in the language of the objection that the front of the house has to be returned to HOA standards. And that means basically that whatever they tear up out of the front, they have to re-landscape. So we just get new landscaping, which is kind of nice because there were a couple bushes we were going to pull out. So there you go. So I think we're good to go. That's like the only real concern we had. So I think we're getting a house. HOA gross. Dude, every time we've said like the HOA thing, we go tour all these houses. The broker's always like, now there is no HOA, but it's like $60 a month, but they do a great job. And you have a pool, you have a community park, you have all this stuff. Where we live now, there is no HOA, and it is like the Wild West out here, okay? It's like the Wild West. There's like, if I do this, like, imagine that like these are the streets, okay? This isn't going to be helpful. If I say like there's a right angle street, okay? It's like this. This isn't how it actually is, but let's just say like my house is here, okay? And then there's like streets that go off this way, streets that go off that way, right? There's no HOA, so people park their work trucks, and one guy in this neighborhood has a freaking crane because he works for like an electric company. He has a crane.
Pretty Ite super chatted $4.
Oh yeah, Pretty Ite. Thank you.
Here to celebrate this momentous W. Bossman.
Hells yeah, thank you. And also thank you, Brandon, for 11 months. Wow, almost a year. Jesus. Yeah, god damn it, right. Also, since we're not just quite sure you plan on doing a full critique for it, yeah, we might even have the full critique out within like a few weeks because it's going to be a little more lean. But this guy has like a freaking pickup or a crane, and he parks it like this. So it cuts like halfway into the street. So if you're trying to come along and like other people have their cars parked here, you can like barely fit through this little space with a regular car. Barely fit through. And then you go around, and then if there's also a car parked over here like that, you also then have to kind of barely make your way through, and then you can get out of the neighborhood. But because there's no HOA, nobody can tell him not to do this. He just gets to be a dick. Like, he just gets to be a prick because my reasons or something, and my freedom. And so he's quite the character, the guy that owns this house. He also has he has 3 "Don't Tread on Me" flags in his, like, he has an actual flagpole like in his front lawn. And so he has like a big "Don't Tread on Me" thing, and then he also has like he took it down, but he had a bunch of like yard signs that said like the election was stolen, wake up sheeple, and stuff like that. He's quite the character. But he thinks he can park his crane like this, and even though he could park it like this and be a normal human being, he parks it on the angle just because he can. Just because he can. He's that kind of guy. Yeah. Yeah. So when we were talking to all these brokers, and they're like, now there is an HOA. So sorry about that. Like me and Nikki are like, no, we're glad to have that. Like we're okay with an HOA. We also like our house. If you just like imagine the street, if there's just like this, and then each of these are the plots, right, for the houses. And let's say this is our house. So it's just, I'll just do L for Luke. So if this is our plot, we spend a lot of time, a lot of effort keeping our lawn really nice in the front and also in the backyard. So we work very hard. No weeds, like we really try. These guys have like a xeriscaped yard, so it's just rocks and like some bushes and trees and bird baths. It's super nice, super cute. These guys have like a really nice lawn as well. They take care of it as well. And then over here, these people, I am not joking, have not mowed their lawn since we moved there like 2.5 years ago. It's like a forest of weeds. And in Colorado, we have what are called stickers. I don't know what their official name is, but basically they're a weed that like dislodges little thorns, like thousands of them per weed plant, and they spread out and sprawl out. So it goes onto the sidewalk and it gets stuck. Like we go on walks with the boys and it'll get in the tires of the strollers. It popped the wheels to Lockie's wagon because they have all these weeds everywhere. And one of them went over just barely and touched it. And then like same thing across the street. It's really heartbreaking. This house here was owned by a guy that took really, really good care of his lawn. He sold it like 1.5 years ago. And the people that took it over, he went from having the best lawn in the neighborhood, the best bushes, super finely kept, like it's like a freaking Paris and Versailles. And now it's just totally decimated. It's all weeds. There's no grass left. Like they've let this thing go to hell. Same over here. They don't take care of their lawn. They don't take care of their lawn. They don't take care of their lawn. So all of their weeds, the wind blows it all into our lawn. And so all the people that take care of their lawns and take care of their houses suffer because everything else looks like you're outside of the public dump. And you have to deal with all of their weeds seeding into your lawn. So then you have to put more effort in because they're being lazy. Like it's so annoying. It's so annoying. It's just, man, it's, so all this to say, the idea of having an HOA is actually kind of nice because with an HOA, if you're not familiar, an HOA is basically a group that kind of runs the neighborhood. And so they have rules like that you can't have, let's say, like you can't have your dog unchained in the front lawn because it might lunge at people. So you can't do that. If you do that, you get a ticket. Or you can't paint your house neon green. Like that's one of the things. Or you can't build a 30-foot tall fence. Or you can't have like a radio antenna that goes 50 feet in the air. You can't do this, can't do that. If you have a really weedy lawn, they get to slap you with a fine. If you leave your trash cans out on the street, you get a fine. If you have your work truck outside of business hours parked in front of your house, you get a fine. You know, all of this stuff, which if you want to do any of that stuff is of course very oppressive and frustrating. But if you're like me and you just want like a really nice neighborhood to live in and you don't have to deal with that prick that parks his crane on the corner because of my freedom, it's nice. It's nice. So I'm kind of looking forward to having an HOA. Ask me again in a year and maybe I'll feel totally different. But right now I'm just, man. Yeah, there's pros and cons to HOAs. Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, it's like there are some HOAs which are god awful and it's like actual tyrants running it. And it's just like lonely people that have nothing else to do in their lives. And they get a little taste of power through the HOA that they help run. And so it just ends up being super toxic. There's stories of that where some lady doesn't like somebody in this house. And so she just ends up sending constant HOA fines at them for random little stuff, whereas they don't enforce it to other houses. So there's always stuff like that that can happen, but you just never know. Yeah, to broadcast HOA propaganda, anti-HOA propaganda to the neighborhood. Yeah, there is also a house pretty close to where Nikki's parents live, and they have like, I'm not joking, they have like that's where I got the example. They have a 30-40 foot tall antenna on top of their house. And so it like the house goes up to the little peak, and then he has an antenna that goes way up there. Like his house, all told, if you include that, is like what, 50 feet tall. Like we joke about it because you're like, oh, there's the antenna. Like you can see it over all the other houses as you drive into the neighborhood. Yeah, I think what it's for, I think it's like like he's saying, Raleigh's saying, I think it's just amateur like radio broadcasters. He has his own little radio show. He broadcasts off that antenna. And that's just how he does it. There was one radio channel, I think here in Colorado. It was when I was growing up, so I think it was in Colorado. But it was called like the Pirate Station or something. And it was run by a family out of their backyard. They had like a little shed where they had all this equipment, and they would talk about it on the radio and be like, they'd play random oldies. Like, that's why my parents and grandparents liked listening to it, because it was all like 40s and 50s music. But it was just a family that had all this equipment and decided to start their own radio thing and started doing it. You know, it was funny. It's just funny. My thing I don't like about those HOAs is that they can sell your house without your permission. I think it depends on the HOA. There's always agreements and things that they can do. Other things are like condo associations are similar to that. So like they can sell your condo complex's governing body to another group. So then the group, somebody else can buy it and manage it. It's also the similar thing. We had a guy that was going around when I worked in real estate, and he was buying up trailer parks. It's because people own their trailers, but they rent a spot in the trailer park. And the spot provides the electricity, the sewage, all of that stuff, right? So you own the house, but you don't own the thing it's sitting on, basically. And it's governed by the trailer park governing body. And this guy that we were working with would go and buy up all of these trailer parks. And what was particularly slimy about what he was doing is he was going into trailer parks where it was elderly people living there on fixed incomes through Social Security and retirement and stuff like that. And then he was buying them up and then raising the fees by like $100 a month for the first year, and then $200 for the second year, and $300 for the third year. And these old ladies can't pay that because they're on fixed incomes. They don't make more next year. They are stuck with what they have. So then they can't afford it, and they have to move or they get evicted or whatever at like 85 years old. And then he was always like, yeah, I don't care. Okay. Like he was an actual psychopath, like a sociopath. It was like kind of unsettling. It was a whole thing. That guy was a prick. Yeah, I did not like that guy. I did not like that guy. There were some news stories about him actually, because I think he might have even made national news because it got out what he was doing so regularly. Is he just moved from like city to city doing it, and man, it was something else. Let's see, you're saying this is an HOA. This is like one of the crazy HOAs.
Another exclusive, a Weston Hills homeowner has been put on notice and told to park his $100,000 pickup out of sight or face fines. That homeowner claims the rules are outdated and ridiculous. Local 10 News investigator Jeff Weinseer is on the case.
It was ordered over a year ago.
Weston Hills resident Glenn Gordon took delivery just a few weeks ago.
Oh, does he just want to show off his Rivian? Is that what this is? He's like, I got the new car. I just want to show it off. This is another thing that one of my neighbors does, like a couple blocks over, is they have like a nice Audi and a nice Mercedes. I like, they're the starter models. It's not anything crazy, but like each of these cars is probably $50,000, $60,000. And they have two of them, and they're both like just nice cars. They park them side by side, backed into the 2-car garage. And they're like, they're in a very visible house. It kind of opens up to everybody that drives down the street. And they always have their garage door open. Always. Because they like to show off their cars. And so, like, you'd think they just close it. They have nothing else in the garage. It's an empty garage except for these two cars that they have facing out, so you can see that it's an Audi and a Mercedes, and they want to show off to the neighborhood that they have the fancy cars. So even while they're not there, it's just sitting there. They leave that open so people can see their fancy cars. It's like so weird. It's the weirdest flex.
I felt like a little kid waiting for it. First one I saw was mine.
It's the first of its kind, an all-electric pickup called the Rivian RT1. It looks like nothing else on the road. Can go 315 miles on a single charge. 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. 800 horsepower. It's become the neighborhood attraction.
Some are taking pictures of it. They said, beautiful vehicle, and can I see it?
This is the thing. He's like parking it out there to show it off.
That's the only comments I've got.
Less than 2 weeks after taking delivery, Gordon gets this notice from property management. You see, the truck cannot be parked in his driveway overnight. The country club has strict rules for trucks, trailers, RVs, and commercial vehicles. They want it out of sight. Gordon has lived here for 27 years and called property management.
He said, we're going to wind up getting fines and penalties.
Did the rule ever cross your mind when you order the truck?
Park it in your garage. He has a 3-car garage. What's the problem?
I never even thought there would be a rule like that. We don't have room in our garage to put it in there.
Gordon says
You're going to have to make room. You bought a $100,000 truck. I think you could probably afford like an afternoon to clear out your garage. Let's be honest with ourselves, okay? Let's be honest. He's keeping it out front because he wants to show it off. Okay, like, and he lives in a nice neighborhood, so he's not scared about it getting broken into or something. Like, come on. This is because he wants to flex it.
the rules need to change with current times.
It's a different world. And then Tesla's coming out with Cybertrucks. And I think it may hurt our home values as these new vehicles come out, as they evolve and come out. We're going to discourage people from buying in our community.
Also, what really doesn't make sense about this is that electric cars have to be charged when they're at the house, which is why people put the chargers in the garage. So you take the car in, you park it in the garage, and then you plug it in and it charges overnight, like while it's parked there. So like he's running an extension cord all the way out to the car parked in front of the house in his driveway to charge it. Also, he can flex on his neighbors that he has a $100,000 truck. Like, but like this is like this is one thing where it's just like, honestly, this is a matter of preference. I don't have a problem with this because, again, frankly, after living in my current neighborhood where guys with like these massive trucks and cranes and everything, they're allowed to park it wherever, even if it takes up half the street, so you can't drive safely through the road. After my experience with that, I'm okay with having these rules. And I'm like, bro, it's a $100,000 truck. It should probably be in your garage anyways. Like, when did we start parking $100,000 vehicles out in the open? Like, it's that, am I weird for thinking you should put that in your garage where it's safe? And he has to charge it. Put the charger in your garage. Make it way more convenient.
Jerry Engelhardt is the president of Gordon's Association in Weston Hills. Left us this...
Yeah, wait, hold on.
Jerry Engelhardt is the president...
Yeah, you see, he has the extension cord running from under the garage door where he has the charger hooked up out here charging the car. Just pull it into the freaking car garage. Like, what? It's like, hello, I am rich, rob me. Yeah, dude, like, I don't understand it. It's like when people buy like the really fancy MacBooks and then go to the coffee shops and they aren't even doing any work. They just kind of set it there and lift the lid and then watch YouTube videos on it while at the coffee shop. And they're just doing it so that they can flex that they have it, you know? It's so cringy to me. It's so cringy.
Of Gordon's Association.
He should probably be put in jail, honestly. Frankly, yes.
In Weston Hills left us this message.
If the gentleman would have read the documents when he bought the house, he would have seen that. And there was a possibility that he would not have bought the truck.
There are judges.
Or he would have parked it in his garage. Like, it's not that complicated. I understand, like, oh, this is America. Like, my freedom. Like, I want to park my car wherever on my property. But he went into a neighborhood and he signed documents. And we're doing this right now with this new house. You sign the paperwork agreeing to be governed by those rules. Everybody in the neighborhood does it. And so everybody's playing by the same rules. And this guy's clearly, if he can afford a $100,000 car, he's a millionaire, at least, just a single millionaire, probably a multimillionaire. And he's living in a very, very fancy neighborhood where these HOAs are pretty strict because they maintain property values and things like that. Like, if you don't like it, just like go to a different neighborhood. Like, this is so stupid. It's like you signed the contract, dude. You're governed by it. Deal with it.
To have ruled that these vehicles are regular vehicles.
Here in the villas of Bonaventure, the same scenario. The pickup truck owner here wound up suing his association. Not only did he win, but the association wound up having to pay $40,000 for his attorney's fees. In that
Fancy.
2001 judgment, Judge
2001, so it's not about modern day. Times have changed.
Stephen Shutter wrote, quote, "Personal use pickup trucks do not carry the negative implication they might have 25 years ago. In no way could parking these vehicles interfere with the quiet enjoyment or the property value of the condominium residents."
Yeah, that's potentially very fair. I mean, obviously a Rivian is not the same as like a Ford F-350 with a trailer hooked up to it. Like, obviously to most people that's pretty clear. But I don't know. To me, it seems like if you sign paperwork saying that you won't have a truck in your like driveway overnight, and then you have a pickup truck in your driveway overnight, like you broke the agreement. I get it. You can sue and try to get the rule changed, but like, is it that big of a deal? Like, just park it in your freaking garage. Like, who has the time and the money? Well, this guy or these people with like multi-million-dollar homes and $100,000 trucks. I just don't know who would be the type to be like, I'm going to spend weeks of my life fighting this. And if I don't win, I'm out 40 grand in lawyer's fees. But I'm going to do that anyway. I'm going to fight with $40,000 to get this rule changed so I can park my pickup truck outside. Maybe in this original case, maybe there weren't garages. It was like a condominium, I think they referenced. Yeah, condominium. So maybe there weren't garages that he had access to. But this guy is like a multimillionaire. He has a 3-car garage. And he's like, I just can't possibly park my car in there. Come on, dude.
Is there anything that's going to make you get rid of that vehicle?
No.
Is there anything that could make you park it in the garage like a normal freaking person? You insufferable troglodyte.
No, we're ready.
No. Okay.
To take it. It's just wrong.
In Weston, Jeff Weinseer, Local 10 News.
Okay.
Yeah, dude, for real. What a first world problem. That is so cringy to me. Like, wow. Cry me a river. You have to park your $100,000 car in your garage. Like, what? He's like, no, nobody understands me. I'm super serial. I just watched that South Park episode last night with Al Gore. We have to fight Man Bear Pig. I'm super serial. Excelsior. Man. Yeah, I don't know. Again, ask me again in a year. Maybe I'm going to be totally burnt out on HOAs. I'm going to be like, oh my God, I hate them. Why did we move here? But as of right now, after dealing with the opposite side of this, with no HOA and a very blue collar community where people want to park a crane on the side of the road on the corner just to like piss off people for some reason. Like, we have no recourse. The cops are like, he's parked his car. Like, technically you can still drive through it. They've talked to him apparently. We were talking to one of our neighbors about it, and they're like, yeah, no, we've called the cops and they've done the knock and talked to them about it. And he said, nope, it's my property. I'm going to park my truck where I want to park my truck. My crane, I guess. It's a truck crane combo thing. But he's like, I'm going to park it where I want to park it. You can't stop me. And they can't. It's like the most toxic freedom thing ever, you know? Speaking of South Park, you hear about the Casa Bonita drama. Are you talking about the thing where it's expensive? If that's what you're referring to, I got the email Maybe I can actually pull it up. Casa Bonita. Casa Bonita. Nope, wasn't that email. Casa Bonita. Wasn't that email account. Okay, third time's the charm. Casa Bonita. Yep, here it is. Okay. Okay, I got it. So I got the email. I've been on the wait list for Casa Bonita for what, years at this point, like just waiting for them to tell me I'm allowed to go. And they finally sent me an email and it's, your time has arrived. You can make a reservation. Their current availability is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, dinner, Saturday, lunch and dinner. My code to get access to a reservation is valid for 90 days. And then you can do all of this. Now, let's just say like we take 8 adults. Okay, let's just say. Yeah, they have availabilities. Okay. Find tickets. No. Okay, no time. Let's go here. Okay. It's like $40 per adult, and that does not include booze. So if you want drinks, that's going to be more. People have looked at this and are like, oh my God, it's so expensive. Because it is. I mean, $40 per adult is a lot of cash. That's a lot of cash money. Dab, dab on the haters. That guy with the Rivian could afford it, but most people could not afford it. However, it's because they're thinking of it like it used to be. Casa Bonita was like a few years ago, it was the trashiest place ever. Like the food was well below Taco Bell. We went there a couple times and it was bad. Like half the restaurant smelled like actual sewage. And I'm not joking. They had like a burst sewer pipe or something a year or two before that they never really fixed. They just kind of patched it over. So they had multiple dining rooms nobody would eat in because it smelled like actual human feces. So they had that. And then all the food was garbage. The sopapillas were always burnt and terrible, but it was the place in the South Park episode. So you went and you just dealt with it, but you didn't really eat the food. You might grab a drink or something, but in general, it was like, this is fun, but it wasn't good. The Matt Stone and Trey Parker, the guys that created South Park, they bought it and they've put like 15 million, I think it was 12 to 15 million dollars into it, renovating everything, fixing the sewer line issues, redoing the waterfalls, all of that stuff. And so now like they hired a chef, they actually have changed the food completely. So now it's a totally different experience and it's their attempt at making something actually good where you go and you enjoy it and you want to go back for special occasions and stuff. And that's what this is supposed to be. Like this is supposed to be a place you go to on your birthday once a year, you know, with your friends, and you go, you have a good time, but this is not like a nightly occurrence, right? This isn't something you go every Friday night to. And I think a lot of people were expecting it to still be really cheap because before I think it was like 10 to 12 bucks a person, you know, and kids were like $7 or something. It was very cheap, but it was also disgusting. So I don't see this as like hugely controversial. I think it's just once people see it and they go, they'll understand that like, oh, this is not the same thing as it was before. This is totally, totally different. But I can see why some people saw this and were like, what the hell? It's been shut down. Now they're bringing it back, but it's so much more expensive, thinking it's going to be the same thing as it was before. But now this is much more expensive compared to what it was, but hopefully it won't give you instant food poisoning like it did last time, because it kind of did that before. Is $40 a meal not diet cheap though? Diet cheap? I mean, still for an adult, $40 for a meal is a fuck ton. Dirt cheap? I mean, $40, that's just the food, to be clear. That's food and water and like soda, I think you get access to. But like that's still pretty expensive. Like it's not Rodizio Grill. Like, oh my God, dude, I love the Rodizio Grill. Like Rodizio Grill, that stuff's fire. But that's like all you can eat and it's like $60-$70 a person. But it's all you can eat. This is $40, and like that, I'd still consider this a special occasion. Then there's me who gets sushi that's $45 a person. Some restaurants are like $100 a plate. Yeah, but I would hope, I mean, maybe you're just more bougie than me. I would hope that those at $100 a plate would be very special occasions, right? Like nowadays, I agree, Kylo. I think it's like 15 to 20 is like what I would expect for a mid-tier basic restaurant. You know, the entrees maybe $12-13, and then you might get, I don't know, a drink or something like a soda or water or tea or something that might be a couple bucks. So all told, you're in for like 15 to 20 for an adult, but 40 is a lot for one. Reminds me of medieval times. Oh, dude, I love medieval times. I love it. $100 for me and my wife. Yeah, I think like $50 a person, that's like a nice meal out. Like Nikki and I will go, and if you factor in drinks and stuff, we'll spend $100 on a date night. But like, again, we're not doing that. I would still consider that expensive. Oh, the sushi's all you can eat though, so it's 100% worth the 45. Oh yeah, no, it's sushi, all you can eat sushi. That's good sushi. You gotta pig out on that, man. Oh yeah, and the tips. Some of the restaurants I've been to recently, have you guys seen this? A lot of them that I've been to recently have gotten rid of tips. Like they make the waiter tell you up front, we don't accept tips. It was like kind of surprising. But they said like, no, they build the equivalent of what we would have made through tips into our pay. So it's no pressure to you to factor that into the bill. You just get to order what you want to eat for the price that's listed and not worry about anything else. And I was like, that's refreshing. Like, that's great. Okay, yeah, you get consistent money. You're not reliant on people being like doing the 18% tip or whatever it is. You just get paid what you should be paid every time instead of having to hope that people tip you, you know? I've been seeing that a lot more in Colorado. Yeah, it's kind of refreshing. Like, I like it. Apparently there was a story, I think it was it Casa Bonita? I think Casa Bonita is one of these. Hold on, let me try to Google it. Yeah, this, Casa Bonita also did this. This is all very, very relevant. Hold on, let me pull full screen. Okay. Casa Bonita workers demand return to tipping. Yeah, so limited opening workers, yeah, they're asking management for changes to the pay structure. She's the chief chef. That's crazy. So labor organized restaurant opportunities centers united are demanding more transparency, better communication. Among them is return to pay structure based on minimum wage plus tips that was initially promised when many of them were hired. Shortly before opening, Casa Bonita's new owners, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, decided to eliminate tipping and instead pay workers a flat wage of $30 an hour. I mean, minimum wage versus $30 an hour. Like, they're probably getting off with more money doing $30 an hour, I would think. Maybe. I guess it depends on how many waiters they have and stuff like that. I don't know. You could probably calculate it out, but $30 an hour consistently, I don't think is that outrageous. But it also, like, it makes the experience, the dining experience, I think, so much better. Like, but then again, I guess they have to be keeping an eye on the employees. We once went to a restaurant outside of Universal Studios in Orlando, and we had a meal plan thing for that trip. So it's like the little cards that have a meal at this restaurant, but it doesn't tip with that. And no joke, like, we had one of the worst experiences with a waiter I've ever had at a restaurant. Like, they ignored us. Our food took an hour and 15 minutes. What was very, very clear, we also came with like the grandparents, and they were at a separate table, but they didn't have the meal plan. So they paid with just a credit card, right? So they were actually paying and then tipping off of that, whereas we had the meal plan cards. And they got their food and orders taken immediately. Their drinks were there within 5 minutes. They had all their stuff come out. They ate. They were done with their meal completely. And the guy still hadn't taken our orders. And it was the same waiter. Just because he knew he wasn't going to be getting the tip based off of these meal cards, So he treated us like actual garbage. And I was like, I still would have left like a cash tip on the table. Like, even if the card doesn't have it built in, I still was going to do that. But now, no, I'm not tipping you. God damn. Like, you basically just didn't show up to work for an hour and a half while I sat there. It was insane. It was like actually crazy. I felt like I was taking crazy bills. But if like the worker had been paid a flat wage, like these people apparently are, then they just treat everybody the same because they aren't trying to suck up to the people that they think they're going to get the bigger tip from and then ignoring the people that might not tip them as well. They just are paid what they get paid and treat everybody the same. You actually stuffed them. Stuffed that. Is that a euphemism? Is this a boomer moment? Should I know what that means? Oh, stiffed them. Honestly, I think we still left something because we asked for a new waiter and then the new waitress came over and actually took our orders and treated us well. And so I gave her a big tip just because she was so opposite of that other guy. But I was like, after an hour of sitting here and seeing him treat everybody around us great and then totally ignore us because he didn't think he was going to get a tip. Like, we called a manager over, like got up from the table, went over, grabbed like the manager walking around, had a new waiter assigned to us, and she was wonderful. And so she got tipped, if I remember correctly. But yeah, that guy, I don't know, if he worked for me, I would, if I was a manager of that restaurant, I would have fired him instantly. It's like, no, your job is to provide a service to people, not just assume that you're not going to get tipped on something and then treat them like garbage. Like, what? that's not how that should work at all. But yeah, that was a crazy thing. It was a restaurant we really liked too. That's what made it all the more frustrating. I know, same thing I thought, but a lot of people or places, it really is mandatory. It's stupid. Yeah, well, it's because they pay them minimum wage, and then they're just stuck with that. Like, they're paid minimum wage. The only way they make a living wage is by getting tips, and so then it puts all the pressure on the customer, and it makes a really weird, like, stilted dining experience. Whereas like with this or a lot of these other restaurants I've been to recently where they don't have a tipping thing, they're like, no, you're not allowed to tip us because we're going to treat you the same as everybody else regardless of what you're ordering. Whether you order a $10 thing or a $100 thing, you get treated the same, which I can appreciate that. I get that. You know, I've been to some fancier restaurants, and when you walk in and you're like, we want to do the whole kit and caboodle, we're going to be spending a lot of money here, they all of a sudden treat you really, really well. But I'm like, shouldn't the people that also come in just for a drink be treated well too? You know? When I worked at Olive Garden, it was $4.10 an hour plus tips. Do you think if you were paid $30 an hour, TB, this is something I honestly don't know. I've worked in a restaurant before, a fast food restaurant, but I've never worked for tips. Do you think if you were paid $30 an hour, depending on how long it was ago, like maybe 25 an hour, but no tips, do you think you'd get ahead more with the flat rate, or do you think with tips you'd be making more? Because I honestly don't know. I have no idea. I think it depends on the type of place you're working at. If you're working at a place that has some big bills, like $100, $200 tickets, then you could probably make some really good money. Absolutely better at 30. Flat rate here in Tennessee, no question. I used to make $200 to $400 a shift in tips. Oh, baby. That'll do. Yeah, I had a buddy who was a manager at the Melting Pot, and he, I mean, those tickets, the average ticket at Melting Pot has got to be like $120, $150 average. So 20% on that, you know, you're assuming every single ticket that you're helping with, you're making $24, $25, and it's tips. So it should, in theory, be tax free, that you just pocket the cash. Like, he was doing pretty well. I've had a lot of friends who work for tips. I imagine this would take away the stress of worrying whether or not you'll make the same in tips from day to day. That's where I'm at, Major. Like, to me, it just makes sense that it would be very comforting to not have to worry about that. Like, you're going to make, you're going in for 8 hours, you're going to make whatever, $240 because of the $30 an hour. And you just know that's what you're making. Awesome. But I guess when people are accustomed to tips, it can be a little jarring to go off of it. And maybe these people were expecting that they'd make more with tips at Casa Bonita. I don't know. And if they were hired under the promise of minimum wage plus tips, I can understand why they'd want to fight that. But in that case, like, they can just terminate your employment and then hire somebody and be clear. It's $30 flat an hour. And just hire those people based on that. Yeah, food service is draining. That's why, I think it's good for somebody to work in every, major facet of retail, whether it's fast food or, food service, within a restaurant where they're a server or something, or, actual retail shopping, like when I worked at Best Buy, and then also working as, a janitor or something, just to get a feeling for that. It makes you appreciate all of those people that you see that keep the gears of society turning. You can tell a lot about somebody if they're mean to a waiter, or if they're mean to somebody in the service industry or something. You can tell a lot about them if they're a jerk to somebody like that. But once you've worked in that space and you realize what it's like to be on the other side, it's very much changes your perspective. Yeah, Major, I agree. I think it's really good for you. Yeah, you can always tell. Yeah, exactly, Matt. You can always tell. $30 an hour is so good for serving. Sign me up. I'd go back to them, but sure isn't like that where I live. Yeah. Also, paying taxes really bites into your pay. That is the one thing with the tips, is my understanding. A lot of people that get, tips, they prefer them to be just straight cash left on the table, because then they get to just pocket it and they don't have to pay taxes on it. Whereas tips, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is taxes on, or tips left on the receipt from somebody that paid with a credit card, those tips get lumped onto your paycheck, and those are taxed, right? Yeah, you're supposed to report them. But the thing is, when people have cash and it's just cash left on the table, my understanding is that most waiters will just take it, put it in their pocket, and that's it. Yeah, cash tips are very rare nowadays. Yeah. Tips count as wages. Technically, you're supposed to report the cash tips, but oh well. Yeah, people forget. People forget a lot. If I do tip someone, I always try to tip cash for that reason. Yeah. It's if you happen to forget, That would be really unfortunate. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Did I have anything else I wanted to hit up? Oh, this was also just fun. We can chat about this real quick for a second. This was kind of surprising to me, honestly, to see him hem and haw. Xbox boss Phil Spencer addressed the question of Elder Scrolls 6 exclusivity. Basically, he was asked, is Elder Scrolls 6 exclusive to Xbox, just like Starfield, exclusive to Xbox and PC? What he said was really interesting. In an interview with Bloomberg, Phil Spencer was asked if it was going to be exclusive or not, and how Microsoft decides if it's on the right track with this strategy. And he said, we look at it on a case-by-case basis with the games that we build. We want to make sure our games are available in so many different places, on our Xbox consoles, on PC, also via cloud. These games can come to almost any web-enabled device. We're looking at millions and millions of players who will have access to Starfield and other Xbox Game Studios games. It's really about giving players choice around how they want to play and build their library of games. The main takeaway from that is that he doesn't say yes. He doesn't just go, yeah, no, it's exclusive. Which to me is surprising. And as far as I can tell, there's two possible explanations for this. For one, it could be that he's trying to maintain that they're very open to sharing these games with as many groups as possible because they still technically haven't gotten the Activision Blizzard deal across the finish line. So he's not going to say anything conclusive like that until the deal's closed. And even then, he probably still won't because they're going to try to pick up more studios and acquisitions. So it could just be corporate speak trying to be non-committal. The other side of this is that they might honestly be evaluating whether or not something like Starfield is viable. They might be looking at it and being like, we got 6 million active players on Starfield, but a lot of those were Game Pass. A lot of those we only made basically $35 off of because of the upgrade for early access. A good number were Steam at $100 a pop for the early access and then $70 for the regular game. But it might not be that profitable. This is a game that costs $200 million to make, remember. So they might be looking at it and just trying to honestly evaluate whether it makes sense, whether it's profitable, or if it makes sense to offer it game on Day Pass and then the early access pass is only available on Xbox and PC or something. Like they could do something like that. But like there's lots of ways they could do that. So I don't know. But the fact that he's not just saying, yes, it's exclusive, I thought was really, really interesting. Movie studios have realized that streaming services aren't viable with production costs. I doubt they'll stick to this model. Yeah, I think they do a hybrid just like they did with Starfield where they offer early access at $36. And honestly, they might try to bring these games to PlayStation again. Joraptor was saying on the podcast that he thinks that they might bring Starfield to... It was Starfield, right? That we were talking about. I think he said Starfield he would expect comes to PlayStation in like 3 years. And that to me is probably not that likely, but I mean, maybe within a year or two, I could see them pulling a plot twist and trying to do that, which would be very, very interesting. Imagine how quickly all of the PlayStation Sony ponies like would flip and just not know how to react to that. It'd be so funny. Maybe they do like, I mean, still on Game Pass, the fact that it's included in your membership, that's awesome. And then if you're on PlayStation, yeah, you can buy it for $70. You know, you do that. You want to play it on PC, not on the Game Pass launcher, you can buy it for $70. You can do that. You know, all of that could be really, really interesting. So I don't know, but the fact that he doesn't just say, yes, it's exclusive, I thought was fascinating. I thought that was very, very interesting. Revealed that it's maybe not as much of a slam dunk as they thought it would be. Starfield would have made Microsoft so much money if they dropped it on PlayStation. I think it would have made an additional good chunk of change, for sure. Probably another couple million copies within the first week or two. It's a question of whether that's like if that would have eaten away from the other things they got by launching only on Xbox. Because I've heard stories of people going and buying Xboxes just for Starfield that were PlayStation gamers and went and bought a Series S or a Series X just for Starfield. So there's other things to consider too, that it's not just units sold, it's also that they sold a $500 console. It's also that they sold 12 months of Game Pass, you know, all of that stuff factors in as well. 3 years is far too long. I think so too, Scott. I think waiting 3 years to share it with PlayStation would be too long. I think already the game feels kind of outdated. 3 years from now, it's going to, like, especially after GTA 6 has come out, it's going to be like, oh, dude, this is technologically so far behind the curve, it's not even funny. Let's see. Hey, Luke, these are the remaining studios under EA. Which one do you think shuts down first? BioWare, DICE, Respawn, Maxis, Criterion, Codemasters, Motive, and PopCap. A couple of those I'm iffy on. Codemasters. What do they do? Oh, they're from the EA Sports division. Let's see. They worked on Need for Speed. I don't know hardly anything about these guys. But they have 700 employees. Jesus. What were the other one? It was Maxis, American Video Game Developer. Was it already shut down? But EA suffered from a series of studio closures and layoffs, with the remainder of Maxis reorganized under EA Mobile and EA opening new studios under the label in 2019. So a lot of stuff was shut down, but it's all been like rebranded and reworked. But Spore, The Sims. Oh, they work on The Sims? Oh, but Sims Mobile development was transferred over to Fire Monkeys. And they did Sim Cities too. If they survived Sim City in 2014, I mean, they got out of that. No, that's Build It. That's like the online one. In 2013, they released a reboot simply titled Sim City. Yeah, if they survived that, they can survive anything. That was horribly received, and it was honestly terrible. Yeah, I don't know. All of these probably stay. I mean, The Sims is still super profitable. It's weird to think of it as like super profitable, but out of that list, I mean, honestly, probably BioWare is the one on the shakiest ground. BioWare has not made EA money in what, close to a decade with Dragon Age Inquisition, because I don't think Andromeda turned a profit. I don't think Anthem turned a profit. So I think it's been a decade since they made their parent company money. And at that point, like 10 years? At what point do the executives go, why are we still paying these people? You know, like if I hired somebody to do work for me, like let's just say like I hired somebody to cut together TikToks and stuff. If I hired him to cut together TikToks and then he didn't make a TikTok for 6 months, I'd be like, bro, like we're done. You're not doing the work. You're not like, there's no quid pro quo. I'm paying you to do nothing. Except the difference would be like, maybe he's doing something where like also in addition to not making anything, he also occasionally deletes my videos. Like he just picks a video and deletes it. So he's actually losing me money and harming me. That's I think probably the closer analogy. Like at what point do I just go, this is a dysfunctional relationship and we're going to go our separate ways. Andromeda was successful. Let's see. Let me pull this up from Rocky, the one and only Rocky. Rocky. Mass Effect Andromeda was a financial success. Ooh, hold on. In EA's financials, Mass Effect Andromeda is held up as the title that drove the company's financials last quarter, referenced multiple times as a significant factor in generating revenue. Year-on-year growth was driven by Mass Effect Andromeda sales captured in the quarter by FIFA. Digital sales were 681 million, a new record for the first quarter, and up 113 million on the year ago period. The increase reflects the strength in live services together with our mobile business. In addition, Mass Effect Andromeda was a significant contributor. Full game PC and console downloads generated net sales of 111 million, 32% higher. This was driven by Mass Effect Andromeda sales captured in the quarter. Interesting. That's 3 mentions of the RPG having big sales impact on the business. While it's difficult to tell if the game is a financial success, EA certainly seemed to be suggesting as much. It's more surprising that BioWare Montreal had been put on ice after the release then. I mean, there's a difference between performing decently well and performing to expectations. And it's probably that they were expecting it to perform really well and it just performed pretty good, you know? As for the future, EA say they're still focused on Frostbite powering their games. It was suggested that their game engine didn't play well with RPGs, but there are a dozen new games from EA that are powered by the tech. Yeah, that whole thing. I don't know why they were so focused on their engine, like forcing all of these devs to use it when it just was not the best fit. Did they say what Dragon Age Inquisition is using? Is it also, or Inquisition, whatever the next one is? I'm blanking on it. Whatever the next game is that they're working on, did they say if that's also running in Frostbite, or is that running Dreadwolf? That's it. Thank you, Ranger. Did they ever say what that was running in? Also, hi. It's their own engine. Frostbite again. Oh, let's hope they fixed it up. Let's hope they did a little work on it. I mean, Andromeda had a $100 million budget. It made 110 in the first quarter after release. It did, but I want to know what the marketing was and if marketing costs are factored into that $100 million budget. So did they like pay off marketing budgets for one? And then also, because the game was so mocked and so poorly received, I want to know if it had like any sales in the quarters after that. I would expect that the chart for that is just plummeting. Like, I don't think many people were buying it. When did Steam introduce their refund policy as well? Let's see. Back in 2015, it looks like. Yeah, 2015, they introduced a refund system for nearly all purchases made. So I was thinking maybe this was before Steam refunds, so maybe that's how they got around it, but that's not, yeah, that's well before. So I don't know, they just did well. I bought it in EA, no refunds. Oops. Oops. I want to see the refund graph. Dude, for real. Yeah, Frostbite needs to go. It eventually ruined Battlefield. I don't know. The whole thing with Battlefield is so confusing because nobody seems to understand or know how on earth that happened. Like, it's so confusing. It's so confusing. Because it doesn't have mainstay features from the other games. It's missing a ton of stuff. It barely functions. Like, it's shocking. And it like they took a few years to work on it, didn't they? Like, I don't know what happened, how that even happened. It's crazy. What's Andromeda? Mass Effect Andromeda. Came out in like 2017. It was not well received. It was super, super, super buggy. So bad. Did you play Alan Wake? Are you going to cover Alan Wake 2? I'm down to try it. I just need to make sure that the PC version of the game offers, makes it so you can widen the FOV. By default, it's super tight in all those gameplay trailers, and it already makes me motion sick in that footage. So I just need to make sure I can widen the FOV. If I can, I'm down to play it. If I can't, playing it would make me actually sick. So I'm not sure I will be able to do it, but I'm open to it. I did not play the original though, so I'll have to do that. Oh yeah, my face is tired. Yeah, that's a line one of the characters says, and then the devs came out after the fact and said, no, she's not saying my face is tired. She's saying my faith is tired, which doesn't make sense because the subtitles say face, and also saying my faith is tired in that context doesn't make any damn sense at all either. Like, the whole thing is just really, really weird. EA better not fumble Mass Effect 4. I've been waiting for this game forever. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, fingers crossed. They give it enough time. I mean, we'll see. Have I played Baldur's Gate 3 on PS5? I have not. I've been thinking about getting it for Nikki, though. She wants to be able to get it so she can play in bed, which is hilarious. Because we have the PS5 and TV in the bedroom, and so she wants to be able to play Baldur's Gate in there. Which makes sense. I get it. I get it. I didn't catch up enough with Jesus last night. My faith is tired. Yeah, that would at least make a little sense. Is no one talking about Hogwarts Legacy? What do you mean? I've actually had the urge to go back and replay Hogwarts Legacy, honestly, now that we've hit the fall. It just sounds fun. Sounds like a good return to cozy home, you know? I don't know if that's just me. Feels nice. Oh yeah, I haven't covered it, Louvre, but I think it's ridiculous. Like, it's another example of them just being really lazy. It's so stupid that they do that. It's ridiculous. Fall vibes are hitting me hard, dude. Same. I'm ready for the pumpkins and carving of pumpkins and the leaves to fall and the cold weather. It's like 55 outside today, and it's wonderful. It's awesome. Yeah, Spider-Man 2, that's going to be awesome. I have to send emails about that. Hopefully we can get a review code for that too. Fingers crossed, right? I don't think they liked that I didn't like The Last of Us Part 1. So we'll see what they say. We'll see what they say. Yeah, and Parker, as for it being linear, we will... I mean, I'm open to it. I mean, at this point, I'm kind of sick and tired of all these games, every game trying to be a big open world RPG. So much so that the term doesn't even mean anything anymore. Every game's an RPG, so therefore nothing's an RPG, because none of them actually allow role play. It's all just like, yeah, but you can replace your weapons with a different weapon, therefore it's an RPG. It's like, no, like that is the loosest possible definition of RPG. So we'll see. I mean, I'm open to it. I'm open to it. Open world fatigue is real. Yeah. Yeah. Opinions on Oppenheimer. I still haven't seen it, but I want to. I wanted to go see it with Nikki and do the Barbenheimer thing where we see Barbie and then Oppenheimer, but she was not super into that. She doesn't like the idea of a 3-hour movie. So it was entirely too loud. My open world is tired. Yeah. Oh man. Luke, every week I see your thumbnail. A triumph. Oh yeah, which one did I do that on? Red Dead Redemption 2, I think. I tried Red Dead Redemption 2 again. It's a triumph. 'Cause it is. It's fantastic. Anyway guys, I think I'm gonna call it there. It's like up to 82 degrees in here in this room, so I'm sweating like a pig. So I'm going to go. We're gonna work on a video for tomorrow. Wink wink. I think you're gonna like it. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be cool. You're gonna like it. But we're gonna go do that. You guys are fantastic. I love all of you. Thank you for chilling with me. A joyous stream as always. And I owe it all to you guys. Thank you to all the people who super chatted, became members. You guys were super generous. Shout out to Sean for the super big super chat, the super chat earlier. It was good to see you guys again. You all are wonderful. Love you, Ranger. Love you, Nell, Kimbus, Infinite, Moon, Blue Kaka, Crom, Shields, God Emperor, Kylo, Alpha, Scott, Atarka, Moon, I think I said, Peter, all of you guys. You all are wonderful. Gothic, James, everybody. Much love. I'll see you in the next one. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.